starts now.
And the War Room is live on KTAR's YouTube channel. You can watch the entire hour as it unfolds. So, let's introduce our panel. We've got Chris Merrill. He's sitting in right here, 2 to 4. You were just in this chair. Chris and Joe Show, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, these chairs over on this side are cheap.
Not as good. Not as good, are they?
Terrible.
Yeah.
Co-founder of Lumen Strategies, Democratic strategist Stacy Pearson is back. Hi, Stacy.
Hello.
And we got former Arizona Congressman Matt Salmon. Good to see you, my friend.
Howdy.
All right. So, let's get into how this is all going to break down. We're going to do an hour on President Trump's first 100 days.
Okay.
We're going to start with the economy. In the next segment, we're going to hit the border. At 5:30, we'll go foreign policy. And then at 5:50, we'll go to the culture wars. Let's go to the economy. All right. Couple things. Trump's first 100 days, lowest job approval by any president in the last 80 years. Stock market, down 3,000 points since Inauguration Day. S&P 500, the 7% drop, worst start to a presidential term since Ford took over for Nixon in 74. I'm sorry, but these are bad numbers.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
GDP, first quarter, we got it today. Negative territory. Oof. We get another GDP negative territory. Second quarter, we are in a recession. Okay, tariffs, we know what's happened with those. Is there any other way to look at this as it has been an unmitigated disaster on the economy? We get to some other stuff that Trump has done well and okay. But on the economy, is there any other way to look at it? Is there some silver lining? Anyone?
Well, what you keep hearing is that a remodel means you're going to have a dusty house for a little while. It's going to be uncomfortable to start with, and then in the end, you've got a bright, shiny, new bathroom. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we don't know how it's going to play out. We don't know if we're going to have a bunch of manufacturing that's going to come back to the United States. We haven't seen that yet. I'm skeptical that it's going to happen, but we don't know until we give it, a year, 2 years, 5 years. I don't know.
Are the American people that patient? Well, how about this?
No.
Let's leave the American people out of it. Are Republicans in Congress
Great question.
that patient, Mr. Salmon, former congressman, that they're willing to put their seat on the line for this thing to magically turn around before they're up for election?
I want to look at just a different aspect.
Okay.
So look at the 401ks out there.
Yeah.
And people that are either close to retirement or retired, they're panicking.
Absolutely.
They look at their 401ks. They've seen them decimated since Trump went into office. And my guess is that when the highest efficacy voters of all, and that's people over 55 years old, when they start getting frustrated and they start inundating their members of Congress with phone calls because they're panicking, members of Congress are going to start to panic too.
Peeling off.
But that's the block that voted Trump in. I mean,
that's exactly right.
Right. So, how much leash are they going to give them? Because the stats have shown that Trump voters still support the president at this point. So how long is that leash?
Well, my mother-in-law, who voted for Trump, is giving him 6 months.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. She at least has a date.
This is Janice has 6 months. She's given him 6 months.
Okay.
My mom personally blames my mother-in-law for the situation that we're in. It makes for interesting, right? So my ma, her argument is, well, then 6 months from what? From January, 6 months from the day she said it. I need to know what the 6 months.
I want to know. I want to circle it on the calendar.
I want to know exactly what it is. But the older voters, I think, it's hard to tell a man that he's been conned, right? It's easier to con a man than explain he's been conned. But if we start blaming Musk and the Democrats start really talking about the bad advisors he has surrounding him, I think there's a way to chip away at that popularity. So look, your financial advisors have led you astray.
There's a lot of members that are very, very frustrated with Trump basically usurping their Article 1 authority, whether it's on the tariffs, because you look at Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution.
That's supposed to be
it gives Congress
the job of Congress.
That's right. That is the job of Congress. Also, when it comes to clawing back dollars, look, they may love the fact that government may be shrinking.
Yeah.
I say maybe.
Well.
Because it's not anywhere near what they said it was going to be. When you look at the numbers.
We're just off a couple trillion, okay?
Just
Who
off a
amongst
couple of
us
trillion.
hasn't moved a decimal?
But ultimately, Congress has the power of the purse. Once money has been appropriated or departments have been created, the executive branch cannot, by the Constitution, repeal that agency, get rid of that agency. They cannot.
Yeah.
more than theoretically.
Well, legally,
and
yeah.
ultimately, the other thing, let's go back to talking a little bit about the filibuster. And I've said this over and over and over again. The Democrats should be building a mammoth statue to Kirsten Sinema because the filibuster's still in place.
I agree with you. Yep.
And the reason I bring that up is if the precedent changes and we give the White House all of those authorities that were supposed to be Congress's, it will also be that way the next time a Democrat's president, too.
Yeah. Well, the same thing goes with executive orders. Any people that are cheering them out, I don't cheer any of them, by the way. I want Congress to do their job. Okay, in everything. But if you're cheering executive orders now, wait till the Democrat comes in and declares guns a national emergency.
Exactly. Or they declare, the environment a national emergency.
Exactly.
And so they basically, create a Green New Deal without ever going through Congress.
This is a king. This is not a representative democracy.
No, it's not.
And these huge cuts to things like Medicaid are going to start impacting Arizonans' daily lives this next budget year. If we're talking $2 billion getting cut out of the state budget and reimbursements for low-income folks for health care, like Jan Brewer's talking about, former Governor Jan Brewer is saying people are going to die. And that's the worst case
scenario.
scenario.
Her words, too.
Yeah, she said folks are going to die.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not me, why do I care?
And I think that's when we talk about the economy writ large again, people don't care until it affects them, until they lose their job, until the price of things they like to buy goes up by 10, 20, 140%, whatever the Chinese
they have to pay higher
is.
taxes to cover those holes.
That's exactly the way it is. But if things do not turn around, if we actually go into a recession, some say we already have, but if we actually go into a recession and the numbers with the stock market and your 401k don't significantly improve, I believe very, very strongly that all hell's going to break loose.
Meaning what? What is give me
all
something
hell's going to
specific.
break loose, meaning that there members of Congress on my side of the aisle are going to be deluged with phone calls and angry voters.
But will they step up?
Yeah. Will the members of Congress step up?
Yeah.
If they want to be reelected, they will.
Well, out of self-preservation,
Maybe.
right? Not out of
I love these folks and I want to do right by them. I'm going to get annihilated at the voting polls next time unless I do something and maybe distance myself from what's going on.
We're inside the war room. We're going over Trump's first 100 days. We're concentrating on the economy here in the first segment. We've got Matt Salmon. We've got Stacy Pearson. We've got Chris Merrill. The economic data that we found out today with the GDP falling into negative territory it's frightening. ABC, take a listen.
Look at the stock market in this case it says how bad a situation we inherited. This is a quarter that we looked at today, and we took all of us together. We came in on January 20th. So this is Biden, and you could even say the next quarter is sort of Biden because it doesn't just happen on a daily or an hourly basis.
Okay, so this is Biden's GDP. Okay, here's the thing, and I went and looked this up. I'm not a fan of Joe Biden, never was. He should have been removed from office because he wasn't all there, and the Democrats lied about it. It's one of the reasons they lost the election. But let's be honest about the economy. When Biden left office, we had a record high stock market. Trump nuked it. Inflation was a disaster under Biden. It was mostly his fault, but it was right around 2.7% when he left. Gas prices were down. I know Bruce is rolling in his grave because gas prices don't have anything to do with president, but still.
They go up, they go down.
A record number of Americans were, in fact, employed.
Yeah.
The
low unemployment
rate was at an all-time low. Okay? This is not Joe Biden. Listen, I'm an independent. I can call balls and strikes here all day long. I don't answer to either party. But this is Donald Trump and his tariffs. And if you look at the
They've been
tariffs,
unforced errors.
The tariffs are an act of monumental stupidity. There's no other way to look at it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, does anyone here actually think it's going to work out? Because there is a chance, but I don't like going through the pain. I don't like going through the remodel, as Chris said.
Look, we have been outsourcing our manufacturing for so long the idea
Almost 50 years,
We
I
don't
think.
have
That's
an
right.
American workforce
That's right.
that wants to
That's
do
right.
it.
And the idea, and we've been, whether we like it or not, we've been living in a global economy, and we compete with everybody, and they compete with us. At the end of the day, our people in this country have gotten addicted to cheap things,
Yeah, we love him.
Absolutely.
like 'em.
inexpensive things.
Yeah.
And the idea that people are, even if they come back to the States, the price of manufacturing is going to go up. It will go up.
Well, I've also heard the argument that there's a difference. Manufacturing means making things.
Right.
It doesn't mean creating jobs.
Absolutely.
And
With
automation,
AI and everything else.
AI,
Yeah,
the
you don't-
robot.
yeah.
We're going to make lots of stuff.
Yeah.
We're just not going to hire humans to do
Right,
it.
right.
You know? All right. Here we are. Inside the war room. The 100 Days of Trump. Trump's first 100 Days version of the war room. Joining us, former Arizona Congressman Matt Salmon. Also, the co-founder of Lumen Strategies and Democratic strategist Stacy Pearson. And one half of the Chris and Joe Show. We've got the Chris part with
Many
us.
people
Chris
say it's
Merrill.
the better half.
A lot of people say the better half. Thank you guys all for being inside the war room. So we're taking a look at the first 100 days. Next up, immigration. Question, how did Trump secure the border so quickly? And are we really deporting millions of people right now? Where are we with this?
We are not deporting millions of people. I think if you really do look at it, it seems like they are. It seems like they're deporting more people than ever. But if you look at statistics, that's not the case. If you look at federal data, it shows that there really hasn't been a significant jump in immigrants deported since Trump took office. So are these mass deportations? They're not. The numbers actually show some of the removals are a little bit behind Biden, which is strange. But
Biden didn't make a
never
reality
pointed to
TV
it.
show out
Correct.
of it with Ice Barbie
And that's
and all that stuff.
And I think that effort has had an impact.
What do you
mean? The PR stuff, the narrative of the cop shows and everything when they're
Bad boys.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. But you're putting somebody in handcuffs and you bring in a bunch of cars and you send a message, we mean business. And you can't argue that the number of encounters are down by 95%.
Down by a lot.
Oh, right.
And I think it scared the folks on the other side that, this guy's serious. We're not going to mess with it anymore.
I think you're right on this, Matt, but I think it plays into something else, and that is not only has he created this narrative now that the border is closed, but the previous narrative, and I've heard Gatos drives me nuts whenever I hear him say Biden had an open border. There was never such a thing as an open border,
Right.
never.
Right.
But we called it an open border because we didn't have a PR campaign out there. We never said come on across all the time. Now, we may have had asylum claims, you can do this, but
Right.
at no point did we have an open border. But we heard Biden's open border policies. Now, Trump comes through and says, I'm closing the border, I'm deporting everyone, you're going to an El Salvadorian prison, and that starts to trickle out, and people go, I'm not even trying. I'm not even coming across. So,
Yeah,
I
scared of me to not try.
Encounters were extraordinarily high because there was an asylum process. People walked right up to the gate,
Yeah.
asked for asylum, got to the United States, registered, got a work permit, started paying taxes. This is how this worked. They didn't have the approval to come before they got to the gate, but they certainly registered after. And so now the folks that are coming across, and they still are, their encounters are down because they're not checking in. They're not going to the front desk and saying hello.
Oh.
Well, how many are
Well, but do you also think that deportations are down because that many people aren't coming in, or they're just not
There are plenty
literally
of people here that Biden let in, and so you can deport them.
But those
not
numbers
if they
were
have
the encounter, the 10
legal
million people
status.
that were encountered.
Right, not if they have. Yes, no, Bruce is right. Not if they came in a legal way, but a lot of people didn't come in the legal way. So there are a lot of people.
Well, even those that
can
came in the
deport.
legal way are being deported right now. When you have
Right.
student visas being revoked, and you've got permanent citizens that are sitting in an El Salvadorian, not a prison.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to have due process. It's what makes America different. You have to have due process, and we've talked about this Garcia,
land of laws.
This man Garcia from Maryland, who
Maryland, yeah.
Okay, listen, I don't hear he's a very good guy. There's
I have no
reports
idea.
Beat his wife. Okay, did he have MS? What is it? MS 13 on his
No.
knuckles?
No, he did not.
There's a report that he did, and then there's a report he didn't. And so I saw.
No,
a picture.
you have
If
the
only there
word
was-
of a pathological liar.
if only there was some sort of a process
yeah.
that
where
was
you went
due.
before a judge, perhaps.
And
no doubt.
show me your knuckles.
There's no doubt.
Well, here's why I know
You
he's
have
not
to
a
have-
member of MS-13.
I don't know that he
Well,
is. Or
I know
he
he's
isn't.
not.
Okay.
Because the Department of Justice isn't arguing that in front of a federal judge because they know they will get disbarred if they lie in front of the judge.
Yeah.
They aren't making that argument.
Well, Trump was on ABC yesterday, and this was brought up. There was a picture with him, Mr. Garcia from Maryland, who's now in an El Salvadorian prison, and Trump showed him with his knuckles that said MS-13.
Yeah, written in Sharpie on the picture.
With the gentleman who was, I forgot who was,
Whatever the ABC reporter, yeah.
said that's photoshopped.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, Trump at the Oval Office, sitting at his desk, showed everybody a picture, and he either knew that it was photoshopped or he was handed it and didn't know.
it's alternative facts.
But I
So
don't
wait a
know.
minute.
This is
but Gatos, if only there was an example of Trump taking a Sharpie to a map and drawing
Government document.
where the hurricane was going to go as opposed to where it was actually going to go, then you would have an example of him altering things to fit his narrative.
Yeah. But if you want to talk due process, I mean, and I totally disagree with what President Trump has done. You've got to give people their day in court.
Yeah.
Obama did the same thing on occasion.
And was wrong.
And was absolutely wrong.
Obama's deportation numbers were phenomenal.
They were phenomenal, but they also did some of them.
ignored due process.
Some of them ignored due process.
They
So
did.
people are like, oh, well,
I mean,
Trump's-
if you remember, I was in Congress at
Yeah.
that time, and that's when the whole narrative about kids in cages
Yeah.
Yep.
was
And-
out there.
and the
I saw
progressives-
those kids in the
Deporter in
cages.
chief or
the
whatever they were
progressives
calling him.
went
That was during
nuts.
Obama.
Yeah, they
Right.
hated it.
Yeah, they went crazy on Obama, called him deporter in
Yeah.
chief,
Right.
started some of
Right.
the largest fractures we have in the party
Right.
that
Yeah.
still haven't been repaired.
But I get a lot of people who say, well, Trump's the first to do it. He wasn't.
No.
Barack Obama did that.
Yeah.
No due process. That was wrong then, too.
Agreed.
Okay.